Organized labor gives the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission and government a 10-day ultimatum to slit the tariff increases to 1/3, or it will hit the streets in protest.
The PRC and government have failed to heed our request to stay the implementation of the increases and to open genuine dialogue on the entire energy and water sectors. We are therefore left with very little choice to implement our own roadmap for getting the tariffs down to levels that are consistent with the incomes of Ghanaians. But before that, we are giving the PRC and government a 10 working day ultimatum to slash the tariffs increase to 1/3.
Contrast with VRA and the ECG's position, which is calling for an upward review of the tariff only 2 weeks after it was increased. Now, what do you make of this? My name is Brighton, and thanks so much for staying here. This is today's big story. Right, so first of all, we're going to the Ashanti region, where our regional correspondent Mohammed Nuruddin is standing by to tell us how the region took the news of the 10-day ultimatum given by organized labor to PRC and government to reduce the utility tariffs. Now, Mohammed Nuruddin, if you can hear me, first of all, tell me, how did the people of the region receive the news, organized labor, asking that the utility tariffs be reduced by 1/3?
Problem is also one of...
No, then if you can hear me, how did the region receive the news? Hello, Nuruddin, I can hear you clearly from the studios here. Now, you go ahead and tell me, how did the region receive the news, organized labor asking government and the PRC to reduce utility tariffs by 1/3? Well, we're trying hard to reach our correspondent in the regions. Organized labor asking that government should reduce tariffs by 1/3 and giving it a 10-day ultimatum, else it will hit the street. We'll be getting to our correspondents right there for them to tell us exactly how it was received. But the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Kofi Asama, who addressed a news conference, said while the union was not opposed to the increment in utility tariffs, the level of increment was simply unacceptable.
We recognize the need for some adjustment in the tariffs, given the changes that have occurred in the fundamentals of the tariff structure. Organized labor is shocked and outraged by the levels of the increase. You may recall that the last time the increase was made was in 2010. So we recognize that there is the need for some increase. But we are really shocked as organized labor and outraged by the levels of the increases. We fail to understand the rationale for such astronomical increases when government was only able to increase salaries by a mere 10% for 2013. And as we sit, the back pay, what is called a back pay, differentials from January to August, is yet to be paid. For reasons of political expediency, the PRC, acting on the promptings of government, failed to implement what all the stakeholders agreed was the best way forward. Now the PRC and government are asking Ghanaians to pay for the cost of political expediency. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades, we say no, not again. It is indeed unfair to people of Ghana when the few at the helm of affairs of this country choose and implement policies that serve their narrow political interests, only for the people to be called upon to tighten their belts as part of measures to clean the mess.
And very soon we'll be reaching our correspondents. We want to have a feel of how these regions, the Ashanti region, the northern region, and the western region received the news of organized labor asking government and PURC to reduce utility tariffs, which were announced a month and so ago. But we've also been talking about efficient service as well as increase in tariffs. And that was one of the issues raised there by organized labor at the press conference.
The past increases clearly give away the lie that tariff increases will help improve the quality of service. Ladies and gentlemen, in our view, what is needed is time-bound investments in both energy and water infrastructure. There's also the need for efficient management of the utility companies, without which no amount of investments in the sector will make much impact. These are issues that ought to be addressed by the sole shareholder of the utility companies, which is government. Government ought to make the necessary core investment and also ensure that the people it appoints to manage the companies are competent and have the necessary incentives to behave in the national interest. Once this is done and the products called electricity and water are available, then we can begin to talk about so-called realistic prices. That also consider the general levels of incomes of Ghanaians.
Now, a lot of issues were also raised there. The fact that organized labor is asking government to reduce the tariffs by a third. We'll be trying to speak to a Deputy Minister of Information and Media Relations, Felix Kwakye-Fosu. How is government reacting to a call to reduce the tariffs by 1/3? And organized labor says 10 days will hit the street, will take to public actions if that is not done. And we'll also be reaching our correspondents in the regions to find out exactly how the regions received the news that organized labor is asking government to reduce tariffs, which were announced a couple of weeks ago by a third of the amount. Of course, let's take more from the press conference addressed by the TUC boss.
Obviously, the PRC and government have failed to heed our request to stay the implementation of the increases and to open genuine dialogue on the entire energy and water sectors. We are therefore left with very little choice to implement our own roadmap for getting the tariffs down to levels that are consistent with the incomes of Ghanaians. But before that, we are giving the PRC and government a 10 working day ultimatum to slash the tariffs increase to 1/3. We also for an elaborate plan for payment of the differentials. We are also asking for the elaborate plan for payment of the differentials, the back pay of the 10% salary increases before the end of 2013. We hope, and we strongly hope, that the PRC and government will heed our call to obviate the need for our intended set of public actions.
But it's also talking about meeting the presidency tomorrow to see if a way can be gotten to address what they call a very, very harsh situation of workers who, according to them, are unable to pay because these tariffs have gone high.
Last Thursday, Friday morning, at the instance of the Vice President, and then the contention was that they received comments about various organizations and the general Ghanaian cry over the steep increases of the utilities as announced by the PRC. Of course, the utility companies who were present justify why the need for it. And today, I think when we read the papers, they are still saying that what they needed, they didn't get. So they had wished that it should be 150, and the half they got is not even enough. they try to talk to us about the various challenges that they are going through. Then industry, led by the Association of Ghana Industry, the Employers Association, PEF, and others, all complain. And the dimension of the complaint we need to be serious about is that this increase are going to seriously affect local industries. And most of the local industries that offer employment are going to close down. A particular industry analyzed the increase that is going to pay, and the jump was just too high.
Right, so let's go to the Western region. William Benjamin Peters is on standby. Now, William, tell us precisely, how did the region take the news of organized labor asking government to reduce newly announced utility tariffs by a third? Hello, William. If you can hear me, go ahead. Hello, William. If you can hear me, how did the region take the news?
Hello?
Yeah, William, I can hear you. Go ahead. How did the region take the news?
Right. The announcement by organized labor to help government and duty cut down on the current increment is receiving a massive work in the secondary third-party metropolis, and especially people that have the samples that are conducted with experts in the region. To them, it's news based on their claim that hardship or economic hardship is currently staring in the eye of Ghanaians, and the increment should go ahead for worsening nation of Ghanaians. So this afternoon's call by organized labor for government and RC to cut down on the cost to get it receiving a massive welcome in the secondary third-party metropolis. To the people, the 10-day or 20 receive into period, they just want action based on the claim of economic hardship that the people are going through, right?
And if you said that they want action, that clearly shows that they are in support of organized labor's decision to ask government and PURC to reduce the tariffs.
Yes, but that's exactly the
Hello, William, can you hear me?
Like you rightly stated, that's what they are calling for now. They think this call should have even come down before now. To them, it's a lot of by the labor, and they are saying that they are backing them with all their support. And whichever decision arrive at, should the 10-day during period last, they will back them.
Right. Thank you so much. William Benjamin Peters is our Western regional correspondent there, talking to me about how the region is receiving the announcement of organized labor asking the PRC and government to get the recently announced new utility tariffs down by a third. We'll be trying to reach the northern region as well as the Ashanti region. But let me speak to a Deputy Minister of Information and Media Relations, Felix Kwachufo. So he's just joined this discussion. Felix, thanks so much for your time. Now, 10 days, that is what organized labor is asking both government and the PURC. That is how much time it is given. Is government and PURC ready to respond?
Well, thank you very much, Bright. Good evening to your cherished viewers. Government appreciates the concerns raised by organized labor and other stakeholders in this matter, and also appreciate that these recent tariff increments have created some difficulty for Ghanaians. Nonetheless, government believes that it's important that discussions surrounding this matter take place in an atmosphere that is devoid of threat and ultimatum. Indeed, government is committed to dialogue with all stakeholders in this to ensure that we arrive at a situation that is beneficial for everyone involved. Indeed, government has demonstrated this commitment only last week Friday, when it convened a meeting of various stakeholders, including organized labor, the Association of Ghana Industries, the Private Enterprise Foundation, and the utility companies themselves. Frank discussions took place at the meeting, and at the end of the day, a technical working group was put together to examine various proposals and also look at various scenarios that could be adopted to address this problem once and for all. One of the issues that the group was tasked was to consider automatic price adjustment, which is one of the ways in which the Ghanaian can be pushing from some of these increases. I must also indicate that government has indicated that because of the need to commit significant investment into our energy supply system, it is necessary to channel resources into, for instance, the boosting of our generation capacity.
Right.
From the current levels to about 5,000 megawatts in 2016. So we would escape the cyclical energy crisis that we go into every now and then. That may impede government's ability now to advance the sort of subsidies that it used to advance in the past. But all of this is intended to achieve stable and reliable power supply in the medium to long term. And we believe that it is a matter that organized labor must work on together with government to achieve.
So you think that perhaps organized labor is kind of jumping the gun?
Well, to the extent that organized labor took part in the discussion, one would have expected that they would give the committee a chance to conclude its work and present a report based on which further discussions can be held. So that if at the end of the day they are not satisfied with the outcome, then they can engage in any form of protestation or public manifestation that they so desire. I must say that government indeed respects their right to protest, but it's of the view that at this moment it is necessary to allow the committee some time to work in order that we may have some beneficial outcome.
Organized labor thinks that, for instance, government should be held responsible for perhaps the failure of PRC to stick to the quarterly adjustment system that would have resolved all this problem. Organized labor is saying that government and PRC have decided to pile up these increases, and this is the result. And so they think that the government should be held responsible.
Well, I must indicate that I'm unable to speak to previous agreements. What I can speak to are commitments that this government, which took over on the 7th January 2013, has made.
Right.
And it is important also to allow the committee to do its work, so that at the end of the day, if they make recommendations that everybody buys into and government then fails to implement it, one can then say that government has failed. But until that happens, it will be a bit premature to pass judgment and threaten some action when indeed all avenues have not exhausted yet.
And so the 10 days, how is government going to handle this?
Well, we will urge restraint on the part of organized labor, even though we sympathize with them and appreciate the concerns that they have raised. But government will continue to explore ways of engaging them in constructive dialogue, which will ultimately result in a resolution of the matter.
Right, thank you so much for speaking to me. Deputy Minister of Information and Media Relations, Felix Kwachiofosu there, talking to me, taking you to the northern region. Our correspondent there, Mohammed Nuruddin, is reaching me in the studios. It's the Ashanti region. Mohammed Nuruddin reaching me via Skype. Now, Mohammed, if you can hear me, the Ashanti region, how did it take the news that organized labor is asking government and the PRC to reduce the recently announced tariffs by about 1/3?
Right. Ghanaians in the Ashanti region are totally in support with the TUC 10-day ultimatum calling on the government to slash the tariff increment 1/3 or face a strike action. They are saying that government should have considered the plight of the unemployed or non-salary workers before the utility tariff increment. There is one thing they are looking at, Bright, how the increment would affect every single item in the market, and that the poor Ghanaians cannot afford to live their normal life. So they are totally in support with the call by the TUC. Some salary workers I have spoken with also lamented over their current status as far as their monthly salary is concerned, indicating that they may end up not saving pennies for future use. So, right, they are totally backing the call for government to slash the tariff increment to 1/3.
Now, the TUC and organized labor, civil society, both private and public, have also spoken and said that if after the 10-day ultimatum, nothing is heard from government, they will resort to public action. That is by way of demonstrations and protests. One, in speaking to these workers, do you feel or do you see that these workers are ready to hit the streets if after the 10-day ultimatum, nothing is heard from the PRC and government?
Absolutely, they are ready. Even they are saying that even if the strike action is going to come tomorrow, they are ready to join them to register their displeasure about the increment. So in Ashanti region, Ghanaians are really happy. An organized group like TUC has come out with that information.
Now, Mohamed, you tell me, you are in the Ashanti region. You've been talking to these workers. How hard have they been hit by these increments? 78.9% for electricity and 52% for water. How hard has it hit the pockets of these workers?
Very, very high. I can say it has affected them very, very high, according to the explanations they are giving to me. So some of them now have to cut down their expenses as compared to previous days for the increase. They would cut down it. They're going to cut down their expenses because if government really implement this and they don't cut down their expenses, it means they will have a hard time to live.
All right.
They are really having a high time here in the Ashanti region.
Right. Mohamed, don't go away yet. Stay there. Let me speak to the VRA. Let me get to the Public Relations Department and speak to Sam Fletcher. He's just joined this discussion. Thanks so much for speaking to us. Hello, Mr. Sam Fletcher. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Bright, for having me. Good evening.
Good evening. Now, first of all, how did you take the news of the call by organized labor to get government and PRC to reduce these utility tariffs by 1/3?
I think. Look, the reaction from organized labor in particular, and the reaction from the general public is not entirely unexpected. Nobody wants to pay more in this world. And for that matter, Ghana is not an exception. Nobody wants to pay more. We all want to pay what we pay. We all wish that what we pay will go down. So it is expected. And I think that there is some, if you like, credibility in their reaction. It's a genuine reaction in the sense that I even as a provider, I don't think it is right for us as a country to wait for 2-3 years before we come out with a big increment in a utility tariff.
Right.
I think it should work by the automatic tariff adjustment formula. Every 3 months, do something small. See whether you have to up it or down it. But it has come. That is the challenge. That has been the trend in this country. I think it's time for us to change it. I mean, all of us are now privy to some of the challenges we have had in the past because of the way we have run it. So it's a lesson for us all going forward that we have to make sure the automatic adjustment formula works. Having said that, I put myself in the shoes of organized labor. I put myself in the shoes of consumers. The argument is that salaries have not gone up. Why are tariffs going up?
Right.
Well, my point here is that whether salaries have gone up or not, my cost of production has gone up. It has more than doubled. And therefore, if I have to stay in business, then I need the right resources to run. My resources are going to come from my tariffs. And I've presented my case. 128% is what I asked in terms of increase. I got only 36%. Now, if I ask for 128% increase and I got 36%, you're asking me to reduce it, or you're asking that it be reduced further. How do you expect me to run my business? How do you expect me to operate as a power sector? And right, do not forget that the banking sector, the mining sector, the telecoms, the agricultural sector, all these other sectors, they contribute beautifully to the growth of GDP in this country. The only sector which has a dual role, besides contributing to the growth of GDP, is basically to drive the economy of this country. That is the power sector.
Right.
That's what is happening. So can you imagine a country where the power sector has collapsed? Nothing happens. We need to relook at this and understand that I need my tariffs to be able to operate effectively to cover my operational costs. I need my tariffs to be able to have some internally generated fund converted into capital expenditure so I can invest in future projects. And I also need that tariff to have a good balance sheet so that I'll become creditworthy in the future. It's very important that we look at this. Otherwise, really, we will be shooting ourselves in the foot as a country if we talk our way into darkness.
Right, let me say thank you so much for speaking to us. Samuel Fletcher is the Public Relations Manager of Volta River Authority there, talking to us about the call by organized labor to get these utilities slashed. They are talking about 1/3. We'll be trying hard to wrap up with our correspondent in the Ashanti region, Mohammed Nuruddin. But organized labor, we're told, is meeting with the presidency tomorrow, and a lot more of these issues will be sorted out there, and hopeful to get some leeway, and perhaps the 10-day ultimatum will be adhered to by government or the Public Utility Regulatory Commission there. Let me go to the Ashanti region and wrap up with Mohammed Nuruddin. Mohammed Nuruddin, now you had the Public Relations Manager of Volta River Authority insisting that, of course, these utility companies will need their resources, the revenue, to ensure that they can ensure quality and efficient service. Now, these workers have agreed that the TUC should go ahead and ask government to reduce the tariffs. They are not thinking about these utilities and how they can operate with the revenue that they are getting now. Right. Technology there, sometimes it works, other times it does not work. Nuruddin, thanks so much for coming through from Kumasi. But we'll be getting you more later on the show. Don't forget the other segment. They're also talking about organized labor's call for government to reduce the tariffs by 1/3. That's how we wrap up. But not the whole show. The next segment is coming with Lady Marian walking in. Stay right there. I'll be back in a moment.